Welcome to the Red Light Exposé podcast.
We are an international grassroots survivor-led circle.
Our goal is to counter the growing acceptance of sex work ideology.
We aim to raise awareness of the harms of commercializing sex, meaning prostitution, porn, stripping, and BDSM.
Through honest, in-depth conversations, we elevate voices often ignored and silenced.
Together, we're challenging stereotypes and dismantling myths.
We envision a healthier, safer society, especially for girls and women.
We appreciate your company on this journey. Welcome back to the Red Light Exposé podcast. My name is Elly Arrow, and today I have a special guest. Izabella is joining me, currently in Sweden. Izabella is a survivor of exploitation in the commercial sex industry, exploited across Central Europe, and finally in Sweden, where she was able to escape the industry and to start rebuilding her life. And today she works for Talita, Sweden's most well-known and I think also longest-standing exit support organization that supports women in escaping and healing from prostitution and commercial sexual violence. Izabella's here with us today to share that story about her life before and after exploitation, and I'm very excited that we made it happen. Welcome, Izabella.
Thank you so much, Elly, for this nice introduction. So happy to be here. I'm Izabella, and I was actually born in Romania. I lived in Sweden now for 10 years and left Romania actually 16 years ago, while been living between Italy and Germany a little bit and England. But did ended up in prostitution or sexual exploitation already when I was a young teenager. And then also had experience of incest with my cousin, something that I did not know for quite a few years. Actually, I found it out when I was 20. Well, my conscience kind of accepted what has happened when I was 28. And it started, I don't know, around 10, 11, when I was a few times that it happened, which quite profoundly, subconsciously affected me without really being able to name what has happened. But I just felt that I had to forget, and I was actually praying for this to stop. It was like a shutdown memory that I could not accept and try to avoid it and run away from it by focusing always on the external that actually co-created my past, because I kind of lost my parents. At least my father died when I was 14. And then because my mom was not very stable, and we come from a family where there was a lot of, I cannot say incest, but sexual abuse. My mom was sexually abused when I was a child. And then my two other sisters who were older than me, they were almost sexually abused by either my aunt's husband or my father's friends when they were a child. I still remember when I was, I don't know how old I was very, very small, maybe 6, 7. And I remember my mom told my father that my aunt's husband tried to touch my sister, who was 13, I think, at that time. And my sister said, "No, stop. I will tell my father if you do this." And she actually told my mother, and my mother told my father. And one evening, when all of us were together at my home, my mom told my father, and my father started strangulating this man's neck. And he said, "I will kill you. And how could you do this?" I mean, I had no concept about sex and all that, but the understanding that my aunt's husband wanted to be with my sister, I internalized it as, wow, that's love. And I believe that, why is my father so angry with him when he actually loves my sister? So it was a totally misconception about what he actually wanted to do to her. And I don't know from where this comes from. Why did I thought that? When I saw actually my father's reaction was so enraged. I thought he would kill him. And to me it was, but that's love. When it was exploitation.
I mean, what you went through is extremely traumatic, but a version of this, I think, actually happens to a lot of women and girls. I think in this culture, there is a lot of confusion about what is love and what is abuse. I think it's done on purpose. I've met a lot of women and girls who, when they are catcalled on the street, a man shouts after them, nice body, whatever, they both feel threatened and they feel complimented. And that feeling is very confusing. And to understand where the line is between abuse, harassment, and real appreciation. And maybe as someone goes through puberty, maybe girls do want boys to be interested, or a lot of girls would. But then adult men come in the mix. I remember being a teenage girl and there was a lot of confusion and a lot of inappropriateness. And only as an adult looking back are you able to separate, okay, that was an appropriate flirtation with a same age person. And no, actually, that was harassment. That was not okay. And maybe that was rape. That's so complicated and painful. And the confusion, I think, for some of us stays long years, maybe a lifetime.
Well, definitely. And to me, it's a form of cognitive dissonance, I think it's called. It's a confusion. It's the dynamic of confusing a narrative because we are, from a biological perspective, we are living organisms that adapt to our environment. We internalize our environment, especially when we are children, because we don't understand and we don't know what's sex and what is love. I mean, we are biologically wired to connect, to be intimate, but children are not sexual, even though they have that right to be close, to be intimate, emotionally intimate with other people. It's always this discussion to talk about age-appropriate conversation with children, and definitely you cannot tell children and show pornographic material to children about what sexuality. But if you're taught that, making love or having children is when two people love each other, then children will learn that. That's love, when sex equals love, even though they cannot describe it. And when they end up into a situation that it's abusive, they might feel that even though they have been perpetuated into a certain behavior, trusting an adult, we are born with this innate trust in our surroundings because we have no clue how the world works.
We have to survive. We need the adults.
Yes. Yeah. And therefore it's very crucial that you have a safe environment with safe adults who can guide you and protect you. But if you don't have that, I mean, we are screwed. And we can see that in the world we are living today. And all this, I have to learn it on the hard way. Lately, in the last years, I mean, now I'm 37. And the last 10 years, I had quite a bit to learn and I'm still learning. The more I understand, the more enraged I get. Because I feel like my whole life it was a betrayal, not only from my parents, but also from the whole society I was living in.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the economic situation of your family. So I think everyone understands exploitation has to do with poverty, but poverty is not the only ingredient. Most of the time, trauma is the second one, and you kind of need both, right? So it's not just growing up with, we're struggling to pay rent, we're struggling with housing, education is hard to access for people around me. But also, crucially, sexual abuse will just happen, even if you're not ready to call it abuse. And my no doesn't matter. So I distinctly remember you saying, you just learned my no doesn't matter. Why fight back? Why not kind of surrender? Especially if maybe down the line, money is in the mix. And then that whole confusion that comes from that, where it aids your survival while it also hurts. But nobody around you is really fully able to call it what it is.
Well, money, it's never the end result of prostitution or putting yourself into a situation where other people can exploit you and benefit from your own sexuality. In childhood attachment, for example, you definitely see that we are internalizing our environment. If you don't get all these stages during childhood, like being seen, being heard, being validated, being acknowledged for who you are and having the safety space to develop your own self-identity so that you kind of can navigate throughout your life and know more or less a little bit who you are and what you want. But if you don't have that and you're left by yourself, you will just adapt and then internalize a self-blame for what has happened to it. It's like your fault. Like, for example, to me, it happened with my cousin and my parents. Even though our financial situation, we were not rich, but we were not poor. And I often heard from other people and from neighbors saying that if my father would be smart, and know how to use the money he had, the earnings he had, we would have several houses because he was earning a lot and he was working as a builder. Now looking back, I definitely can name that he was an emotionally immature adult. And he was very naive. I mean, he was so lacking of himself because he himself grew up without a father, with a mother that was not really attendant with him. So he kind of grew up, he started working when he was 14 and started providing for his mother and providing for others. So he was the bread of the family at 14 years. And he was quite well known and people wanted to work with him. So he was earning a lot, but that was not the problem. I remember he would come home many times when I was a kid with a lot of money. But how he gestured the money, that was a problem. And then also his need to be accepted, his need to be loved, that actually did not really see me, because when I was a child, I always had to adapt to his, unconsciously to his needs, so that he would see me. I would be as he wants me to be so that I am loved. And I never developed myself. I never really knew who I was. And then I always adapted to his needs. And because my parents did argue a lot, there was a lot of self-blaming, pointing fingers at each other, whose fault is who, and it's your fault, no, it's your fault. And it was quite abandoning to see them and isolating. I did definitely isolate myself. And then my mom left when I was 10 because of all those arguments, and there was also physical violence in between them. And because my mom was she was suicidal, and she was also, I guess, because of all the rape that happened to her, she was not well. She was living on antidepressive medication and she committed suicide. So it was not good. And she was sleeping a lot. So many times I would come home from school at 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, she was still sleeping. So we had to kind of take care of ourselves. Meanwhile, my father was working. I mean, he was working, he would be home only on Sundays and maybe Saturdays sometimes. But then once my mom left, then my cousin, because we moved there, and before we moved there, he was starting, I mean, it started with play. We were always playing. We were fighting. He was older than I was maybe 10 and he was 15, 16, my cousin. And we would play with fighting and he would always touch me in my private points. And fighting. So it started like that. And then at some point it escalated and started masturbating while touching me. And and I did wake up once and I felt I had orgasm and I felt so ashamed. And it felt dirty. It felt disgusting. And actually, I felt disgusted of myself because I had that orgasm. And because I did not really know what was going on, because I didn't see. He was at my back and I was lying on a bed and I wanted to stop and I liked it and I felt ashamed. So it was many feelings at once, which kind of created a split between my sexuality, between what was good. And I knew that what he was doing, it was not good. And I was so scared that my father would find it out and the others would find it out. And I felt like, what are they going to do to me? And I actually would pray he would stop. He did that a few times. I can't remember how many times. And I would never say nothing. It was just automatically, I knew now he wants this, so I have to lie down and he will come. And that went on, I don't know how many times, a few times, not many times. But I felt terrible and I was terrorized. And I prayed for him to stop. And he stopped. And I don't know why he stopped. But I was really happy. And then I wanted to forget everything. So during that time, and later on, after a couple of years, my father died. So I moved to my mom and then I got raped. Then I got bullied. Most of the village and school as well, they were pitying me kind of. And I think that response, because I was bullied by my peers, I was extremely bullied because of the rape. And I was extremely humiliated because of that. I couldn't handle it. I went to the police second time I was raped. And I remember the police told me that I should stay in the house. Yeah. I just couldn't handle it. And then when my mom found it out that I was raped, she told me that she was raped. So that was like, here we go, child, daughter and mother. And I was really angry with my mom. And I left. I left and I moved to my sister. And when I moved to my sister, I got very, I don't know if it was depression, but I got very dark. I would go out in the night. I wouldn't sleep. And 15-year-old, you don't need much. Now I see it so well that a 15-year-old child being alone in the night, even during the day, you don't even have to go in front of a man because they will come to you and approach you. And if you cannot say no, like you said earlier, because when I got raped, I screamed. I begged for him to stop. He was holding my mouth. Please let me go. I do everything, but let me go. He wouldn't. And then he even told me that it was me who wanted. So I kind of psychologically, I think I learned that, okay, go into a numbness. And I got also disgusted. I remember second time, I felt like if someone else is going ever to touch me, I would be able to kill that person. It was so painful. I felt so humiliated. And people saw me crying, and I couldn't dress up. And another guy came and dressed me up, and I was crying and screaming and saying, because I had a lot of pain. And it just happened. Every time, it was disgusting. Every time I would have sex, I would just feel disgusted by men. But I think unconsciously, I would just allow myself because I adapted it as a control mechanism that is better for me to give them than they take it away from me. But I hated it, and I did not feel nothing. And I remember even at 16, I wished to be a boy to rape all the girls because I thought girls deserved that. So I had so much anger. It's not that I was only hating men. I was hating women as well. And I was hating myself for what I was allowing others to do me. And because I did not feel nothing, I was so numb. I still remember, I wished, because I was thinking here in Sweden, parents cannot tell you if you want to change your sex. At 16, you have the right. And I remember if I would have that chance when I was 16, then I would have done it. And thank God that I didn't get up there, because I had so much despise and disgust towards my body and towards my femininity and also towards men. So I kind of internalized that women deserve that. And then I got also very attacking towards myself. And then I wanted to learn to become very good at having sex with men. I had a huge list with men, phone numbers with whom I would meet. And sometimes it's not that I went out and asked for money. I didn't ask until I found a boyfriend who told me actually how to ask for money. And sometimes I remember I got raped by a number of guys, a group. They took me to a party one night. I was out and they asked me if I want to go for a party. There were 4 or 5 guys. And I said, yes, I'm going to the party. But when I got there, I realized that it was me who was that party. So they put me in a room and I still can't remember what happened. I remember the walls, that they were green. And I remember I started crying at the end because one of the guys had orgasm and I felt I felt it on my body, and I said, I want to go home. And they let me go home and they gave me money and they asked me if I need a taxi. I think that was the first time when someone gave me money.
That is an unbelievable amount of trauma for one young person to carry.
And you see, when I moved to my sister, we really, really struggled financially. It was really hard. And my sister, who was never raped, she was taught to be responsible. Looking back, I still admire her character because she would always have the right people around her. She would not become friends with people that were destructive. She would choose her friends carefully. She had guts. She was 22, but looking back now, I still remember I would always say like she was 2 men in one. She had character and she worked 7 days a week, 2 jobs to be able to provide for us. And when she would find out what I was doing, she would go nuts. Either she would punish me, either she would lock me in a house, either she would beat me. And it didn't work. It didn't work with the violence. And the more violence she put on me, the more rebellious I became. And the more I wanted to prove her that she don't tell me what I have to do, I do what I want. Until I run away from home. For a little while, I got into a factory. I found a job where I worked with a women factory. The company was from Italy, but they were mostly women. I think 90% of the workers were women. And I was 17. I ran away from home. I left school and I got this job by miracle. And they helped me. They really helped me. And I stayed there for, 1 year, 1.5 years. But then I left, and I would always put myself into places that were not very good for me. It was like unconsciously I was keep on looking for excitement, for adrenaline. And I actually did also start selling myself a few times. But I stopped also with that during the time I was working in that factory because I felt ashamed and I was really afraid that everyone would find it out. And I knew innately I have to stop. This is not good. I mean, when I worked in this factory, I got only the whole salary I had, it was 150 euro a month. It was very, very little. But I was doing other jobs as well. And I was with Oriflame and I was with Avon and I did well. I was sharing an apartment with some other girls, couples, and it was good. I had no problem. I was actually proud of myself that I made it. But at the same time, in the beginning, I did sell myself to two men who were friends. They actually gave me 100 euro, which was almost my whole salary for a month. But I stopped with them as well because I felt ashamed and I knew that this was not good. But then I became friends with some of the girls who were working as a barista in one of the clubs in Romania. And there I met the owner of the club and he told me to work for him. And I didn't want to work for him. He told me that I didn't even finish my school. Who am I to tell him that I don't want to work for him? So I worked for him. And then he started sexually abusing me. It ended up well because he physically abused me at some times and he sexually abused me. And I remember I would do what he told me. And the worst was not that I have done all that, but the worst was that every time he would ask me, do you like it? And when I said yes, it was like every time I said yes, I was abandoning myself and I was just allowing him. It was like building up a self-hatred from inside out. Because deep inside me, I knew what he was doing with me. It was not my will and I didn't want that. But I did not dare to say no. And I couldn't any longer say no. It didn't even exist in me. It was just I adapted to it. And like you said, for what to say no when no one hears me? And even though to him I said no in the first time, because he played me. He started slowly into manipulating me and saying that, oh, you have nice breasts, you're a nice woman. I was almost 18. And he was, you're a good woman. And oh, your breasts, you're just so good. And I mean, he would sexualize me. And he invited me to his office one day when I was free. And he just told me that, oh, just if I lift up my shirt, just that, he will let me alone. And I just couldn't. I said, okay. And then within a few seconds, he was on me and I was naked. I told him no. I told him a few times no. But it's hard when naive. You have no clue how the world works. And you are so damaged already inside. And someone older who is on you constantly, you just lose it. You cannot stay on, even though you say, no, I'm strong, I can do this. But no, it's not like that. Many teenage girls end up in that because they have already a follow-up of so many other types of neglect, abuse, adverse experiences.
I have had so many conversations with people about teenage girls in situations like this, because this happens in every town and every village. Girls have to go through this. And people love to blame the girls. They say, oh, she goes to the parties and she drinks and she took that weird bar job at only 17. People love to blame. But none of this abuse could happen if the teenage boys or adult men, often much older men, didn't participate, didn't commit the crime. Like, it's like they can smell the vulnerability. They have learned how to spot somebody in pain, somebody without protection, and they take every opportunity and they manipulate, right? And they break down the boundaries very consciously. And people talk about it like teen girls seduce adult men. Nonsense.
Sometimes I have this feeling, and I actually don't know, but sometimes it feels like societally we are lied to into a narrative because we live in such a complex situation and so split that confuses people, because many And so many of us, so many of girls are either introduced to abuse, they don't have a healthy relationship with other people and especially with parents. And maybe their parents have a lot of issues, and then a sexualized media, because that deeply programs us, because there where we learn. And then where we learn the norms and what's our expectations of ourselves and from the others. And then when you're traumatized as a young girl, you might have this split identity between I don't want, but this is my role maybe, or a learned helplessness that I have nothing to do against it. And I have just to accept it and stay numb, go into a numbness and allow the abuse to happen. Because anyway, there was no one there for me to protect me when I needed. And then men also learn that, she wants this, rather than seeing the mechanisms. It feels like we are all in this boat of exploitations towards one another. And women have learned this learned helplessness because the society just allows to happen. How can you fight against something so invisible and so powerful when there is no one there to help you and everyone doing the same thing?
I don't know if this is pop psychology, but I think most people call it the fawn response. If somebody tries to attack you, you can freeze, do nothing, you can fight, but you're a teenage girl, he's an adult man, you're going to lose the fight. Or you can fawn, which is to try and slightly decrease the severity of the violence by making it look like it's consensual, trying to be flirtatious. And I mean, this is what I hear about women in prostitution trying to survive the prostitution. You can't make him angry. You want to try and make him happy, because a happy abuser, he's still abusing, but maybe you know what's going to happen next. And it feels like you can slightly guide the abuse and you can maybe set a few boundaries. That's not always true. Sometimes you just think that's how it works.
There it helps you to protect yourself. Biologically and psychologically, we adapted to the environment, to the toxic environment. But this is a learned, like you said, like a fawn protecting something inside of you that sometimes not even you can longer protect it because it's so far from you. And then you just internalize, I have to show them that I am strong and I'm capable, because we are so hurt internally that we have to definitely protect that. But we lead it into a protection that we don't have anymore the capacity to reach to that. Because the self, it's in the body, and the body needs a unity. If you separate your body from yourself, then you are no longer integrated and no longer living in truth with you.
We want to take a moment to thank you for your listenership. As an independent volunteer collective, our episodes are only made possible because of donations from people like you. Please visit our website, www.redlightexposé.com, and click the Donate tab. There, you can find ways to financially support us one time or on a monthly basis. Your support is greatly appreciated. And now, back to the episode.
We've before talked on the podcast about how exit from exploitation is not clean, how it takes many attempts, but you're describing entry is also similar. It's not like you get paid once, now you're going to get paid every time. It's often more gradual.
Exactly. I realized when I left prostitution that it was really hard to get into it because I did not want prostitution. I was running from my past experiences when I was a teenager, and I'm going to leave Romania. I'm going to forget about everything. I'm not going to trust on anyone, and I'm going to live my life. I have no idea whatsoever to enter into prostitution, even though I did fight a lot with my self-esteem and my confusion about what to do with my life, who I am. I would always change places. I would always change people because I would always be afraid that people would find out who I was. So it's better to run. And when I got in Austria, it was by a mistake because I was working in Germany in and out between, Italy, Germany, and a little bit of England. But I actually was living in England and I was working as an au pair, and the father was sexually abusing me. Here we go again. And I hated myself. I was beating up myself physically, literally. I was beating up myself. I was overeating and I could not say no. Every time he would come, to my room, it was like the sound could not come out through my throat. This is what I have to do. And once I did react physically and he ran out from the room, I still don't know what I did because I didn't want him to touch me. I was 23 and he was 66. I felt so ashamed towards him, towards his family, towards myself. And I don't know what I did, but he ran out of the room. He didn't touch me. And the next day I went and I apologized. I said, well, if I go to Germany, I will be with my sisters. All is going to go well. But it didn't. And I did not know what to do. So by mistake, it was Austria. I helped someone with a job a long time ago in Germany, and she was in Austria doing massage. And when I found out massage, I was like, well, I would like to try that. As naive as it might sound. And she didn't tell me anything on the phone that it was a brothel or you had to do something, you had to get naked. She said, well, you don't need any certification. You can learn by doing. You don't need a lot of clothes. But she didn't tell me that I have to be naked. So when I got there, it was evening. And when someone opened the door, I knew that this was a brothel. A lot of Romanians, maybe one or two, one from Switzerland, one from Austria, and a few from Hungary, but mostly Romanians. And we were maybe between 10 to 13, 14 girls. And I said, oh, well, I'm not going to do this. And she said, well, you're gonna get used to when you see how much money you make. And she was very comfortable when she said that. And I remember I said, no way, I'm not going to do that. The next morning, because they would open at 10 o'clock in the morning, so the girls came. You could also sleep there. Some of them did, and I did that also. But most of the girls would have their own place. So when they came at 10 o'clock, I remember first time when the ring called, a sex buyer came. And all of the girls would just, within seconds, take off their clothes, their bathrobe, and they would just align, ready to go. And the confidence in them. I was really struck because they felt so confident and they looked to be very happy, kind of ready to go.
They have to for the buyer, right? Because if you look scared or vulnerable and the sadistic buyer picks you, you're in deep, deep danger, even worse, right? Like you have to seem strong so the men don't think you're an easy victim, is my theory. What do you think?
There is also one truth, but think about that you have learned, you put yourself into an environment that you actually adapt. And because there is not one event, but several events that leads to a sense of numbness, a sense of confusion, and a sense of, oh, but here I'm good, here I'm wanted, here I'm so well paid. So it's like a learned, internalized truth, self-narrative that one tells oneself, but here I'm, even though at the end of the day, when you see the girls, how they are doing, it's horrible. And I didn't see that first time. I saw that throughout time. And you know what? You start seeing that when you sit with the girls on a long time. Then emotions and then depression and then anxiety and flashbacks and dissociation, you start see that. And I saw that with them later on because I stayed there 4 months. But first time, if you see them for an hour, then they seem, they are very happy. Because actually, if you tell yourself, I don't want that, you go crazy, you take your life because you go against your own internalized choices. Like when you say no and no one respects that no, and well, it's better to go into a fawn, feel nothing and adapt. And the body automatically on the long term, when it happens on the long term, that body learns it. You adapt to it so well that you can trick yourself and you can trick everybody around you.
So at the time, if somebody would have asked you in the massage parlor, are you happy to be there? You would have said yes? Or what was your situation?
Oh, well, I couldn't. First, I was just very struck and I wanted to be like the girls when I saw how confident they were. I was very insecure and I couldn't even take off my clothes. Just the idea that a man would touch me, I would just, oh, no way. I can't do that. And I got actually sick. For 2 weeks, I couldn't stand up. I got high fever. I was taken to the emergency because I couldn't do it. These girls have been so long into it that they become so tough.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you don't do like they say, then you are attacked. I was afraid to open the door. I couldn't take off my clothes and they were on me, come on, look at you. put up your high heels. And I was just stressed. I mean, constant stress. But then after, when I got sick, then I told myself I will show them that I can do this.
Just a question about the law. Was this a legal massage parlor brothel? Because people say, oh, you must have been in some bad place where women get traumatized. You weren't in one of the good places. This must have been some secret, weird criminal operation. But was this legal, or what kind of situation was it?
Yeah, well, the place, it was owned by an Austrian man. I mean, he was depressive, but he was nice in general. He didn't mind what you were doing, as long as you paid what you have to pay. And it was legal. I mean, sometimes the police, sometimes the doctor with his wife would come there and check up, because I went to a room with the doctor to check my health, and he tried to, while his wife was doing the administrative work in the kitchen with the other girls.
The doctor tried to assault you, attack you.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was not attack, but he proposed, kind of. I mean, he touched me, and I can't remember how it was, but he did try. And I was really surprised that, oh, your wife is in the kitchen and you are trying with me.
I think that makes them like it even more. Those kind of men, well, now they can hurt two women. Sorry to be so cynical.
No. I mean, they expect that. I mean, you are there and they think that, oh, you want this because you have learned a lie, telling to yourself that it's what you want. And it's confusing because when you're dealing with low self-esteem, self-hatred, rape, and I think almost all of them were raped at the end of the day when I started realizing what was really going on and started asking questions when I saw how some of the girls would react sometimes when we were just us. Because it splits you. It creates a confusion because men want you. They appreciate how you look and they like you. You become good. They pay you all this money. And it's this side with that emotional, moral side inside of you. And you just fight. And then you don't even know who you are because you have developed a self-image around your sexuality. And you are acknowledged only with your sexuality, and your whole self-identity just diminishes. You become smaller and smaller and smaller, and nothing else is worthy but your sexuality. And your mind organizes itself around that. You are not anymore a human. You are a sex object. And you don't even know that. That's the worst.
Until much later, if you make it through. How did you get from Austria to Switzerland? Did the exploitation in Switzerland come right after?
Well, after a few months I've been living there, the owner, he got drunk and started screaming at me because I told him that if he could close the door because he was talking very loud in the night, and he got really mad. And I said, this is it. I'm not going to allow him. I thought he would beat me that night. And I left.
Just to be clear, you and the other women, you lived in the same place where you were exploited. Is that right?
Some of them, yes. Some of us, yes. And I was living there. I think we were around 5 or 6 who was living there. I actually gradually pushed myself into it and I became quite good at it. And I was quite proud, I have to admit, because I felt like, oh, now my sexuality, I can use my sexuality. I'm so good. I mean, I was so damaged. And I got into drinking within a few months, not even within a few months, quite fast. And I was so self-absorbed, so self-focused. And at some point, just out of the blue, I wanted money. I put my attention on money. And I was like, I'm going to show them I'm good. Because I did not have sex until the 3rd month, I think. And even then I said, well, I'm going to choose with who I'm going to have sex. I lost that too, quite fast. I got really bitter. I got very narcissistic, I would say. Now looking back, I was very rough. And I did not know that because you have to survive and you have to stay strong. And when I went home to my sister after that incident, my sister noticed that I was not doing well. And I remember in the beginning, she would always tell me, I am home. What's going on? And I really lost it. I lost my boundaries. I would have sex with my sister's husband, brother. And I didn't want it, but I had it anyway because I felt like it's just about that. And what's the problem with having sex with guys? And I did not really have the sense of my body. I mean, I remember my sister would tell me many times, would come to me and told me, can you put just some clothes on you because there are men around? And I was like, what do you mean? I didn't have the sense of my body. And for me, my body, it was just a body, but it was not mine. That's so problematic because you disconnect and your body is no longer yours. And the self in your body, it's so long from you that not even you can reach to it any longer, and you become it. It's really dangerous. And I left for my sister because I couldn't handle her. I found on internet a website, and then I got into contact with a girl, a really nice girl who I really liked her talking on the phone. She seemed very kind, in Switzerland, in Zurich. When I got there, it was a proper brothel. It was a really harsh brothel. And I remember when I got there, when they opened the door, I was in shock because that really looked to me like hell. I didn't know if I should cry or what should I do.
Sorry, what did you think it was going to be? Another massage parlor?
Yes, I was thinking because now I saw that, and in my mind, and the girls on the other side of the phone, she seemed very cute and very nice and friendly. I was like, well, it's positive, so I go there. I had no idea that it looked exactly like that. It was really dark with bars and seats where you could sit on a long bench and many rooms and mirrors, and it was dark. And just when I got there, one of the girls opened there. The girl with whom I spoke, she was not there. She came later, and she just left me in the hallway, and I was sitting there in the hall. It was very dark, and I just didn't know, should I cry, where to go, what to do, how could I bring myself here? I couldn't believe. At the end, someone came, showed me a room, and when I saw the rooms with those beds and a shower, large rooms with beds, I mean, mattress, more or less. And I was like, oh, there you have sex. Oh gosh, I was so shocked. And I didn't want to stay there, and I knew I had to leave from there, and I didn't want to stay there at all. But I just didn't know where to go. I felt like my brain was stopped. Where to go? I was running from my sister. I had money. That was not a problem, but I didn't know where to go. My mind was like blocked. And I said, well, okay, I'm going to stay, but I'm going to look for something else. And already from the first night, I was enraged because I felt used. I felt even the owner, there were Albanians with Romanians. So the girl with whom I spoke, she was from Romania, but the owner was Albanians, and they were collaborating with Romanians. And they were bringing in drugs. They were bringing in girls. When they were doing the announcements, they were using this very glamorizing recruitments where they would say, oh, come here, you can earn 20,000 euro in a night and all that. So you don't really know what you're getting in. But once you're there, you're really treated like animals. I mean, we were treated like animals, and I was treated like one. I was objectified, extremely objectified. They would tell me, I paid you for this. You have to sit like that. You have to do this. I can touch you. I was like a property for them, and I hated it. And you had either 15 minutes, half an hour, or 1 hour. And if it was 15 minutes, you had to be there. And many times I ran out from the room, and not only me. Because lately I was thinking if I have ever seen evil. And now looking back, I know that I have seen one there and who really terrorized me. He didn't do much, but the way he looked at me. And I think this guy was one of the Hells Angels, because he had that kind of clothing, and he had this leather clothing, very big. You know, when he was looking at me at the bar, he was very, like, naively, like with a very strange smile. And the girls were telling me, you have to go. So I went there and I approached him. So I went him and he chose me, he took me. And when I got into the room, I don't know what he did to me, but I couldn't move. If I remember correctly, I think I screamed. And I was really scared. And the way he looked at me, it was like penetrating through me, a fear. His eyes were like evil. And even one of the girls who actually was one of the toughest, she was also from Romania. She even told me the very first day that you are here to fuck. Because some men were pulling me from one side to the other and I didn't want them to touch me. And she was close to me with another guy. And she would tell me, you are here to do this. And I was boiling. And even when I left, I said, I would want to give fire to this place. And there I got also into coke.
Again, just so people understand the context, this is a legal brothel. This is where I talk to Americans. They go, oh, but beautiful, rich Switzerland, beautiful, rich Austria and Germany, your mega brothels are safe, clean, women well taken care of, no criminals. And the exact opposite is the truth. If anyone cared to listen to the survivors of these brothels, as some people do now, slowly, they would know this is a charade. It's legal hell on earth. This is what Germany call our brothels here too. Hell on earth.
It's time. And that's the worst problem, because women who end up there, they won't speak because they never healed, they never got out, and you self-blame yourself. You feel that it's your fault. You feel that, how could I allow myself to be manipulated into this? Meanwhile, actually, it's no one's fault, it's the society's fault, because they allow and perpetuate by normalizing violence. Because when we normalize violence, we just become that. And then we live with a paradoxical view that, why this is happening to me? What have I done? But actually, it's the society who just pushes us towards that. It's...
Can I ask how long you were in that Swiss brothel? So you tried to leave as soon as possible, but
I haven't been there for long, maybe 1.5 months, 6 weeks. But it was really a hell of a deal. And I did really damage me, that place. And after that, I went to Dubai. My problem was that I started taking drugs. And once I got into drugs, I couldn't really handle it because I wanted more and more and more. And I went to Dubai and that I couldn't take drugs. And in Dubai, it was in a hotel, in brothel. I mean, we were selling sex in the hotel, and there was organizer, or the pimp, if I can call her a pimp. She was a woman who also sold sex for a very long time, and she was organizing everything. And then I had to pay her 50-50. But she was not pleased with me. She would always say, I'm not good enough. I don't look like a woman. I should use more makeup. I should make my hair. I should make my nails. She was not pleased with me. And I think that really hurt me, because I really wanted to prove myself, as crazy as it might sound. And I did actually do everything she told me. That I did change my hair. I did straighten my hair. I did use a lot of makeup. And I did all that so that I would be good. And I was quite proud. I felt like, oh, I can send you some pictures. It's really insane how I looked. I was like a doll, sex doll.
people are talking a lot about Dubai right now, obviously with the war in the Middle East, or wars plural. People know about the influencer culture. Isn't it this kind of place that tries to straddle two extremes, as in the leadership is quite religious, Muslim, but they also want to seem open and modern to the West, and they want all these influencers to come, and they want all these wealthy people. They've kind of gained this reputation as an influencer, rich people hotspot, but increasingly people know that this is like the worst of two worlds. People talk about slavery in like construction in Dubai. They talk about slavery in terms of like cleaning and household exploitation of women from across the world, African women, Filipina women, etc. And just now I feel like people are starting to say, you know what? And the way that sex in quotation mark works in Dubai, I actually think that might be a lot slavery-like as well, which I feel like that's now happening, that conversation. How long were you there, and what was your impression of the people in that insane environment of extremes of all kinds?
I stayed there maybe the same 6-7 weeks, and I did not have that experience, but I am totally aware that that exists. And I did read books recently about young girls, minors from India, who have been extremely exploited by very rich people in Dubai, and sexually abused, and extreme abuse they've gone through. I did not have that experience. And in my case, I don't know if it was luck. I have no idea. I mean, and I was myself quite sexualized. It was actually me who was telling men to be harsh, to be hard. I did meet some people from there, from Dubai, 2 of them, I have to say, that were nice. They were always saying that we are praying for you, and really nice. And you know what? What came to my surprise later on, it was that because I would speak a lot to these buyers that I never met, but I would speak a lot to them, and they were desperate after porn. They would beg me for pornographic material because it's not allowed. In Dubai, it's not allowed.
And that makes it even more interesting. And then you haven't gotten rid of the woman hatred, so that's why it'll be very interesting to them. Yeah.
Maybe some of them do have. Maybe if you're a king or coming from a royal family, maybe you definitely have access to it. I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, right. Generally, the people I came into contact with on the phone, many were begging for pornographic material. And the people I met personally, both on the streets, normal people that I had no encounter with whatsoever, they were really nice. They were always, oh, bless you, and I pray for you. Very religious, but also kind. And that surprised me compared to now looking back how it was in the European countries and when it comes to porn as well. Because most of the sex buyers have porn addictions, and every culture had their own ways of coping with the women. So I was thinking in my own idea that, well, if Dubai didn't have porn, maybe that's why. And because also the country is more religious, people are more kind and they're not so violent. I mean, I didn't experience any violence. I was robbed once. I have to admit that. But he was not from Dubai. I wouldn't say that. But in Austria, Switzerland, and Sweden, and even Romania, Austria, it was more masochistic. And it was very strange. And they were strange. They were quite violent, I would say. I mean, they would press you. They would definitely press you to do things that you didn't want. Most of them, not all, but most of them. In Switzerland, it was very violent. But most of them, they were, because in Zurich, they were Italians, they were Albanians, and they were some from Switzerland. But it was mostly violent. And here in Sweden, it's more, I mean, they had really sick fantasies, like acting like a child, acting like your daughter, or acting like a sister.
Oh, sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I want to talk about that, but just so people can follow along, how did you get from Dubai to Sweden?
Yes, so after when this woman was not pleased with me, I had to leave. So I found on the internet there were announcements where you could travel. I mean, you can travel all over the world with escorting. And then I found an agency. They called themselves in Sweden, based in Sweden, in Stockholm. And they were actually from Romania. 2 guys. So I contacted them on WhatsApp and then we came into contact and then they asked me pictures of myself and they told me which kind of requirements they would give me, what were my expectations. And then we concluded that, okay, I'm going to come as soon as possible and then work together. Then one of the guys came to Arlanda here in Stockholm to pick me up from the airport. He booked the hotel and my part was to go and pay. And then he would fix the ads on the website, on the escort website. I would have to pay them 30%. And then also the ads, because they said that I had to pay them in euro, maybe 50 euro a day. The ads, wow, right? Something that they lied about. I did not know that. And then also the hotel and all that. So they were 2 guys, very younger than I and very charming and very, very, very nice. I mean, they were treating me like queen. They even told me, we're going to fix you everything. Don't go out because it's dangerous. If you want to go buy food, we can go together and bring you food to the hotel. But later on, I understood that they were trying to coerce me into compliance so that their niceness would make me comfortable and just depend on them, without me knowing how the system is working and how in Sweden is working. Even though they told me about the law, that, hey, the law is here with you, don't have to be afraid of the police. But they even told me, don't go out in the day because there are bad people out.
Because they didn't want you to connect to anybody to get any support. I mean, Sweden has its dark sides, and obviously you will tell us about Sweden's darkest side, but they didn't want you to meet any friendly people who might realize that you needed any help.
Exactly. And they had also other girls, but they didn't want me to really connect with the other girls. And already from the first day, I saw that one of them was trying to be with me, flirt. I mean, you sense that what he's doing now is he's flirting with me or something. I really felt that. And I was, how old I was? I was 25, 26. The next day, another girl comes, new girl. from Romania. She's 19. And quite fast, I see him, how he shifts his attention from me to her. And I'm like, what's that? What's going on here? And then the other guy who was with him, he started coming on my side. I was like, what is this? What are they doing here? I mean, they're flirting with. And I already had my reptile brain was quite learned. And I was really cautious with men. I didn't trust. I really didn't trust. And I knew. I mean, and I think sometimes that helped me a lot. And I don't know from where I got it, but I knew that if a man puts you into prostitution or a man wants money from you, run.
Yeah, there are no good pimps, no such thing.
Once is money included, then you no longer exist. You become a product for them because they don't see you. They see what they can earn from you.
You hinted at it before that you encountered a lot of especially awful buyers in Sweden. So men with the disturbing fetishes. I mean, I always struggle with the language. Let's say styles of abuse. I feel like fetish is too nice a word. Methods of abuse. And as far as you're comfortable sharing with us, that was hard to deal with. But at some point, you did realize, okay, the Swedish laws are different than other countries. And it might be possible to report a buyer that you're worried he's out there hurting somebody. Can you get into that part of it?
You're having a good point there, but I think in my case, because if I think back in time how I was, I didn't think, I was messing up myself on a daily basis and I was laughing at my own abuse. And I even got so bad that I took amphetamine and I fainted. And I remember once I got so sick after the whole night drama that the next day I fainted and my pimp said, well, if you want, I can take you to the doctor, but you don't know how it's going to get. I was like, and I knew internally that, look at me. What am I doing? I'm doing bad stuff. I knew inside of me, even though mentally I would over talk and take over and say, I'm going to get well. No worries. I have been in worse places than this. So I did not really think of that at the time. Men have done, and I did allow men to do with me. And I had this idea that I'm going to do everything and I'm going to learn from it.
One of my co-hosts, I think Sybil Joe, has said this before. You get into this mentality of, I will survive this if I make it a science. I will understand men. I will catalog them. I will know how they work.
Exactly.
I am like in an intellectual headspace as I'm being abused. And that is more manageable than being in a victim headspace or an anger headspace.
Oh, yeah. And I did that all my life because I had nowhere to go. When I asked for help, I never got it. I learned that you cannot trust no one. You have to get strong and you need to go through. And you learn. I always had this idea, you learn. And I also exactly like you said, I wanted to learn everything about men because I didn't trust them. I hated them. And I knew that if I learned, then I would know that they are more messed up than I.
Mm-hmm. And maybe predict their behavior, right?
Well, definitely, because I was always on alert. Who wants what from me? Soon, no way to trust. And I didn't trust anyone. I always believed that all men want sex from me. I lived with that idea for 20 years, almost 17. So where to go in the world when there is no way for support, then you learn that ways to adapt, to cope.
When did you realize in Sweden that the authorities are looking to arrest the buyers and not the women? How did you learn that this is going on? Because I'm sure the pimps didn't tell you.
I think they told me, but I did not pay too much attention to it because I had this moral deep inside me. Like I said, I knew I was a criminal. I knew I was with pimps and I knew what I was doing was not right. And I was laughing at it. I was like the happy code hooker who liked what she was doing because I felt strong and I felt empowered and I felt like I need no one and I don't need no one. When I remember some scenes, I remember I was even tied. I thought I'm going to die. I thought this man would kill me. And I was so scared. But I did allow him to do that. When I left, I was laughing. I was laughing at me. That, oh, you survived. You didn't do nothing. I felt so worthless of myself. And I had so much hate for myself. But when I started finding out, because luckily I met a guy just a few days after I came to Sweden, and I really fell in love with him, and I got really dependent. He was really good. He saw me. And I was very open, I was very open that I have PIMS, because I thought, oh, I pay them and they're going to do what I tell them. But I think they also thought the same thing of me. But I met this guy and he twisted my brain. And now looking back, definitely he saved me. Because of him, I got into trouble with my PIMS, and he would always tell me to leave this. And he actually told me once that he loves me and it hurts him to see what I'm doing. And even he told me that Talita, the organization, the safe house, was good for me. And he even helped me. He took my phone away, and because I wanted to make, when I realized that my ads were not mine and they were false ones, fake, then I made pictures of myself and I said I will use them. He found out, he took my phone and he told me, if you do this, you're going to destroy yourself. And he told me that, well, I could study, I could do something else. It was like he was sowing something into my mind. And I remember I was looking at him and thinking, oh, but it was me who chose this. I like this. I don't need anything else. But then it was also this question suddenly, oh, could I do something more? Is there something more? And I was so dependent on him that I was like, oh, if I'm going to leave this alone, I'm going to be together and all is going to be fine. Very naive. Yeah, I got very codependent.
Of course.
And I think his kindness, and because he saw me, he never forced me. And he was the only one with whom I felt safe. Strange to say this, but he was the only one who knew when to stop. Just makes me cry.
Of course. I'm so glad it was him and not another abuser. Just some good luck just this once.
He was, he was a sex buyer. And we started, he was a porn addict.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it was like we helped each other. I think he wanted to help me, and I guess I wanted to help him. I don't know if I did. He told me that I did help him. It was like a miracle. We met and it started bad. I would tell him to beat me. And it started with master, slave, and I was his slave. Yeah. Yeah, so we started quite with some violence, but it stopped. It stopped.
Because neither of you really wanted this. He didn't want this either.
No, and he didn't tell me, but he told the founders of Talita, because he called them after a year I went through the program. And he said, because he was wondering how I was doing, and he said that he saw me. He saw my humanness. He was a sex buyer. He hardly had any relationships. And he would always buy sex. Not on a daily basis, but throughout a long period of time, he would go and buy sex. But he stopped. He stopped. And we both got well, even though we separated 3 years ago. Well, he was struggling with his own porn addictions and depression. But if I wouldn't meet him, I don't know. He encouraged me. And when the PIMS found out that I was going and meeting him and I would have sex with him without money, they would always remind me, hey, you came here to make money. But I was like, no, as long as I pay you, I do what I want. Because this happened within 2 months. I came to Sweden 2015 in October, and in December 2015, I got to Talita. So it was around 2 months. And once I started finding out that these guys, actually, they were a huge organized network with other guys and other girls, and many guys had their own girlfriends. And one of the guys had another girlfriend that, like I said, he would try to be with the other girls who would come. And they were using their money to buy presents and manipulate the newcomers. One of the girls actually came from an orphanage. And they were together, and he used her, saying that, oh, you do this for us. We're going to buy a house. We're going to get married. But he was using her. And when I found it out that he was actually beating her, and I also found out that they were lying us with the ads, because they were craving a lot of money from us, and it was very cheap. And we paid a lot. Not even my pictures on the ads were mine. And they were always this push, put more pictures, put more ads. more phone numbers. I have to get out of this. And unfortunately, one of the girls in the same group, she told them, and I got into trouble with them. And I thought we're going to fight. Then that day, one of the guys told me, here you cannot be alone. Here, everyone knows who you are. And if you don't pay, you're going to have troubles, with a smile on his face. And I got scared. And then I thought, well, if you're going to do something to me, then I'm going to the police. But by the time I was trying to get out, quite fast, within a few days, I was very happy that I had this guy because I would talk a lot with him. And he would always encourage me to stop meeting buyers. I said, okay, I'm going to stop, but I didn't. And then I met a pedophile, a buyer who called and said, oh, once we started having intercourse at some point quite fast, he told me that I remind him of his daughter. And I couldn't believe that I said that. I started asking questions, and quite fast I knew that I wanted to catch him. I had a lot of troubles with pedophiles already from childhood. In Romania, it's full with pedophiles. They are everywhere. And then I asked this guy, if I go to the police, am I going to have a problem? Because I met this guy, we talked, and he said that he has a daughter, that 6-year-old daughter with whom he has sex. And he said, go to the police. They will listen. They are good. You won't have any problems. So I went to the police, and then they were really nice. I remember when I went there, I said, well, I want to report the pedophile. And the guy from the police at the reception told me, how do you know he's a pedophile? And I said, I'm an escort. And then straight away, he put me in a room, and then I got an interview with one of the police there. And then we started collaborating, and they wanted me to help them to catch this guy, which I did. And while I was having conversation with this guy, because the police wanted to catch him, and I would have the phone, the messages with this guy. And this guy was a banker. I would have this conversation with him that we have decided, quote, that he will bring his daughter with him and we would have sex together, his 6-year-old daughter. And he would plan that I'm going to get pregnant and then we're going to use our child for sex. He wanted that. He was very sick, extremely sick. And I was with the police there, and the police saw all the messages. So in the end, he couldn't bring his daughter, but at some point he said, okay, I'm going to come during lunch break from work, and I want you to stay on your knees. And when I'm coming in, I want to hit you. And he was quite rough, and he said, well, have sex with you, rough sex with you, and beat you. And I was supposed to say, hello, daddy. The police knew all that. So I got into contact with the police, Simon Ekstrom, by the way. Oh, gosh. And it was a hotel in central Stockholm. The police, they were in the bathroom and outside. And I was sitting on my knees in the small room. And this guy comes, opens the door, looks at me, sees me on my knee. And I was shaking. And I said, hello, daddy. So by the time he would come, because he planned to come and hit me, I remember just his face when he saw me on my knee, like a joy came to his face. And the signal was that when I say hello, daddy, then the police was supposed to come out of the bathroom, but they didn't because I said too fast, hello, daddy. So he waited. And then at the third time when I said hello, daddy, the police came out and they caught him.
They got him for the sex buying because that's illegal in Sweden. For people who might not know, that's a crime in Sweden. It's not in Germany. You cannot arrest somebody in Germany or Austria, maybe in Dubai, but they don't enforce it half the time. Now the pedophilia is the most serious part, but the buying access to an adult woman's body is also illegal in Sweden.
Yes, that's right. But unfortunately, he was caught. He was arrested for I don't know how long, but he never got jailed. He got a fine. He didn't have a daughter. He had a son. And he did have a lot of child pornography on his phone. And he didn't get anything but a fine. Not for the child pornography on his phone, but because he bought sex. Yeah. But his life was ruined because everyone knew. Everyone found out. His family found out he bought sex. At his workplace, I think they found out that he bought sex. So he was very shamed because of that. And I remember at the court when I met him, the gaze he had on me, I thought he would kill me with his gaze.
You had to testify in court.
Yes, I had to testify in court that he bought sex from me. And then he got a fine, maybe €3,000, €2,000, something like that.
I know that Sweden has recently, I don't know if the law has changed, they tried to make it easier to impose prison sentences because outing to the public is good. The social punishment is an important component. I think some men do manage to pay the fine quietly, but if you are arrested, then you cannot hide this from anybody. Aside from the fact that arrest is the appropriate measure, because what so-called sex buyers do is violence, right? And if I understand correctly, these laws have become stricter in Sweden. I don't know if that's being enforced, but to make it easier to put a jail sentence on top of the fine. Is that correct?
I think there is a truth, and also that when if you're found to buy sex, you might get a fine, and also be your family members are informed. I mean, everyone is going to find that out. That's for sure, and that's already a mark. Because I remember, for example, Simon Hexer, who always says that these sex buyers are crying, "Oh, now you have destroyed my life. My family will find it out." Poor them. Oh, I just love that part. And now I don't know if that's implemented or not, but if you buy sex a few times, then you are going to have jail from 6 months to 1 year.
Ah, okay, as a repeat offender.
And I know it happened only once a few years ago that a sex buyer got into jail because he raped a woman and he knew that she was trafficked.
I mean, the pro-prostitution lobby has spread this idea that in Sweden, you can't really get men for raping an exploited woman anymore because they will all just be treated as buyers. But that's not true. So, I mean, a conviction of rape is kind of difficult to get in any country because you have to prove it. And the bar for proof is often high. But you can, if there is enough political will and authorities to enforce it and the right people in the right place, not only can you get him for the paying to access somebody's body, but for the additional violence as well.
I think so. I'm not sure. If I know it correctly, very few men have ended up in jail. I don't know if there was any of them, but one. I mean, that's what I know, who did jail because he bought sex, but also raped a victim of human trafficking.
So Sweden still has work to do.
Yes, that's for sure. That's for sure. What is good here in Sweden that there are many women organizations and women have more voice than other countries, I would say. But it's still a lot to do, and especially in the courts. And there I'm quite, even though I work at Talita, I still feel like I do have a lot of gaps when it comes to that.
Sticking with your own journey, so eventually you did enter the Talita program, but you mentioned before it was not smooth. You thought about running away from that as well, understandably, because healing, facing the trauma is extremely scary. And I think many people with many types of traumas never do. When you enter Talita, do they ask you what you want, or do they have a program where they're like, well, you might not like this, but here's what we think will help you most. And if you want this program, this is what you're going to have to do. How does that work?
Well, in my case, they have the safe house and they have 4 rooms, and 3 of them most of the time are for long term, 1 year, a rehabilitation program that you have to follow a strategic way of working with yourself. And then if you come in with the police or social workers, they often, you have this time to think, okay, do you want to stay here? Do you want to leave? And I came here as an emergency because the police called them, hey, do you have a place? We have a girl. And I went there, and I remember the first day when I came in, they hugged me, and I felt that I didn't trust them, and I didn't understand why they were hugging me and why they were so nice to me. And I didn't want to stay. And my plan was, because I was really angry with the police, actually, because they took me to the safe house, because my plan was to be left alone after they catch this guy, because that was my aim, to go to the police to catch this guy and then for me to be left alone. But they didn't do that. They took me because I couldn't stay any longer in the hotel because the hotel wouldn't tolerate selling sexual services. So they took me to Talita, and they told me also that, oh, we take you there, but it's up to you if you want to stay or not. So I went there, and then I didn't want to stay, and I saw the girls who were there, and I kind of knew that, oh, they needed help. I didn't need help. Something that I always hear, something that I think so many times I heard from women saying the same thing. I said, they need it, I don't. I'm well. Sometimes I think it's because we have internalized this strength, this survival, that we have adapted to it. Meanwhile, seeing visually the other person, then you can see it. Oh, this person really needs help, but I am well. It's just like exactly when you see someone being, for example, physically abused. This person needs all this. But when I am abused, you kind of adapt because you recognize your emotions and you adapt to that. You know already how to modulate and how to control it.
I think this is even beyond prostitution, a double standard that I think many, especially women, have with themselves, where if the boyfriend of my friend mistreats her, I will be so angry. But if I'm in the trauma loop and my boyfriend mistreats me, I will rationalize, I will excuse it, I will deceive myself. I mean, this is what I'm told all the time. It sounds simple, but it's hard to do. Part of healing is becoming your own best friend. But if you've been your own, I don't know, worst enemy, but an enemy, to go from that to friend is a long, long, hard journey.
Yes, yeah. And it's always easier to help the other than help yourself because you don't know how. But it's interesting because we have all the answers. I quite know how to help the other. When you ask people, oh, what do you think this person would need? I mean, people usually have good, reasonable ideas. Amazing.
What part about the Talita program convinced you, no, actually, I do need this? Actually, something here is good for me, and that made you stay on the path?
It was not Talita. It was this my ex who actually, because I went to him, I wanted to die. I wanted to die when I got there. I felt I'm going to die. I went to his place and I cried. And I remember, I think that was the first time that he sat and looked at me. He didn't say a word. And after after I stopping crying, and I looked at him, and he was just there. And I don't know, he had something, and the way he looked at me, and then he said, "Well, I won't force you. Say if you don't want." And then I went back and planned to leave from Talita. And then the founders, Anna and Josephine, they saw, and then straight away they took me and they put me in the living room, and they showed me, because they have a white board. They showed me, if you leave now, you're going to go down. But if you stay, you're going to go down and then you're going to go up. And in my head, I was like, okay. And beside that, I have also this guy. It's like, I'm going to try. And I tried, but I was lying to myself, because during those first months, I would still go out, take drugs. I would drink. I didn't sell myself, but I would go out and take drugs, and actually would go out with him and do all those mess up things, that looking for girls and let's have trio, and it was really sick. And then when they found it out that I was still taking drugs, they took me and they told me, okay, now you decide, drugs or you have to leave. Then I decided to stay. And then he left me. Yes. And then I got really depressed. I just crashed. And then I started actually going and stealing from the store, opening stuff. And then it started with flashbacks, with dissociation. It was really bad. It was really bad. I could hardly do anything. I would just cry, and I would be angry with them because I didn't understand, why am I crying? I would blame them. I would say, what did you do to me? I'm just crying. And I couldn't stop it. And even though they were there, they were supporting me, and I would have planning, and I would go to therapy, and I would have group therapy with the girls, and I would go some volunteering work, and they would finance me. They would give me money each month, and I would go to the gym. The gym helped me, thank God for that, but also the therapy, but training and moving, for them to be there and support me wherever I needed. And also because I would steal, and I was locked in jail for a few hours because they caught me. I was opening, and I would actually feel revenge and powerful when I would take the stuff and go to the cashier and look at them and smile. But then when they caught me the second or third time, they locked me, and then I had to tell the founders, Anna and Josephine, what has happened. And they told me, okay, whenever you feel this, you call us and we're going to help you. And then it stopped. And even though I didn't really know why I was crying, I would just cry, and the space to have that, to grieve and mourn everything. It was tough, but I think the toughest came after when I started studying in Denmark.
What did you study again?
Psychotherapy in Christian culture. It was not religious, it was spiritual. There I started having the real deal. Was it the dark night of the soul? And people would pray for me, and that healing touch, that was so scary because I felt so dirty. And I felt so worthless, and who I was to pray in the name of God and to allow love, because it was like I realized, what have I done to myself? And what did I allow other people to do to me? It was like a whole internal house just crashed. But yet, during that period, even though everything crashed, it felt like something else emerges. Constantly, for many, many years, I felt I'm dying. But it was the old me was dying in me. Because now I believe that my whole soul was so darkened, so tainted. It's like the movie with Spider-Man with the venom.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember.
Exactly like that I felt, like dark in me and dirty and worthless. Anger came later, very, very later, recently, in the last years. And then I did have a lot of dreams and out-of-body experiences. And I did feel a spiritual fight. Like everything came back to me, and dreams, and physically I would feel this paralysis in the middle of the night for a few years, 2 years, 3 years. It happened a few times, 7 times, that I was taken out of my body, and I would feel literally that something was walking on me in the middle of the night, and I would go into a paralysis, and then I would just feel something pulling me out of the body and throwing me up. And I would see dead people and blood everywhere. It was really dark.
On this podcast, we're planning a whole episode about nightmares. I think nightmares are horrific. What you're describing, night terror, sleep paralysis, terrifying. But I also think it's the psyche trying to heal. Even though it hurts, I really think it's trying to heal. Something in the subconscious, something biological even is happening, and it feels terrible. But it's almost necessary to flush out all the venom. That's my theory, my personal theory.
I don't know if I can send you a picture. I was telling you about this picture that I made 2019, I think.
You mentioned you got into art and photography as well during this time.
It's a good way of showing things that we cannot really describe, and especially pain. I think pain is really hard to describe in words. The healing started then.
And of course, there's a huge pro-prostitution lobby. And from what I hear, they're also still quite loud in Sweden. And they will say, there is nothing harmful here. It's only the laws. You have to change your mindset. It's true that there's societal shame on women. That part's true. But they say all you need to do is let go of the shame that they try to push on you. And if you know your business smarts and you know which guys to pick, you can do this safely, sustainably. We will support you. There's a sisterhood here that you can access. And then this can be work. It can even be fulfilling a hobby, a life mission. This is how far they'll go. They'll say the same things here in Germany.
Yeah, and that's self-perpetuation, because the society has normalized something that it have never should have been normalized. And it really degrades a society from inside out again, either collectively, either individually, because it just dehumanizes to the core of our sense of being. To me, it does not exist a nice sex buyer, like many Swedish so-called sex workers say that, but here in Sweden there are many nice sex buyers. And to me, these nice sex buyers are the most dangerous. They are out for their own sick fantasies, to gratify their own sexuality by believing, oh, what a nice person I am. I am just here to gratify my own sexuality without physically or verbally abusing this woman. But what they are doing, actually, they take away the women's choices for something else, for something that women can be empowered and grown and shown other aspects of themselves, of who they are, instead limiting them to a sexual being. So these are extremely, extremely dangerous. And I am just so pissed off.
And at what point did you decide you want to go back to Talita as somebody who works there? That you would go into supporting other women rather than going, I don't know, let me do something completely different. Let's start over. Nothing to do with sexual exploitation, which of course in the future, that's still an option, I hope, if that's something you ever want. But how did you come to this point in the journey where you're like, let me help others? And how has that been going?
Well, actually, that's a good point, because just while I was in the program that year, already when I started seeing, because I could not understand why they helped me. I was not Swedish, and why they were so good to me. I could not get that. I think when I started realizing, wow, there are so many other women, because I lived with this concept for so many years, the victim, everything happens to me. Why all this happens to me? What have I done? Why me? But suddenly when I am there and I see all these other women coming and so many other women who are there, and my own healing begins, I'm like, I want to do this. If I'm going through this, I don't know what to do with my life. I want to do this. And because I saw that there were so many girls. So already after I finished the program, sometimes I would go out with them and speak already then. And then with another girl, after that year, we started doing outreach on the street, Malvinas, whatever they were women. And it felt like a scream out of me. I wanted to scream to everybody that there is help. Because they saw me and they saw my humanness. They saw the potential in every human, that there is much more than, because you are a sex object. You are a sex object in prostitution. No matter how nice these sex buyers are, you are a sex object. You are made into that. Coming to Talita, I've been seen. I become a human with so many other aspects. And I have been accepted and loved for what I was. And I could not grasp that, even though, it was not one straight line. It was really ups and downs a lot. And even today, after 10 years, I still have ups and downs. And now I did heal. And I do not want someone to be seen for what has happened to me. I want to be seen for what I am today. And there I'm still fighting. And sometimes I can get pissed off, even at work. Sometimes I feel like I'm seen with that eye.
You're always the survivor, just the survivor.
Yes. And that pisses me off, because I feel like I did work with myself and I did heal, and I have other qualities. I'm nothing like what I was then. Nothing. Even though I do carry some shame still, and pain and sorrow for what has happened, but I'm living from a total different perspective compared to what I was. I actually found pictures I didn't know I had from that time, and I just couldn't believe what I saw, because it's nothing from what I am now.
But it was an understandable survival mechanism then. I think a lot of trauma survivors go through the process of becoming a new person, and then this is so hard, not despising the old self for when she didn't know better and being kind to her. That's a whole new step in the healing. I don't have to be in that survival mode, but when I use that survival mode, I had my reasons, and I can forgive myself for doing what I did at the time. I did the best I could. Easily said, so hard to do.
Definitely. And it's practice, it's constant practice. And even though if you attack yourself or self-criticize yourself, it's always very important to go back and show compassion for yourself, even though sometimes even that can be hard at times. But we have to relearn, unlearn and relearn. And it's possible. It's really possible with the right tools, with the right people, with a safe environment. We can learn from each other rather than sexualizing one another.
Today, not only are you supporting other women, but you're also speaking out publicly. And you mentioned you've even gone and spoken in the Romanian parliament. So that's a whole new step, going back to your home country to speak. And the reason that you're on this podcast is because we did an episode about Romania, and both me and the Romanian guest were like, oh, we don't know any Romanian survivors is speaking out in Romania, only know Amelia Tiganis in Spain. If there is a movement, then it's early stages. And then you said, but I'm here. I'm speaking out.
Yes, yeah. Well, I was really, when I saw that and when I heard you speaking to Jana Matei, I think it was, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to write you. It's like, I'm here. I want so badly to be heard and I want so badly to speak out. What I did was actually, and it was a big challenge for me to go to Romania because I did fight with Romania quite a lot and I did hate. I had so much hate and so much anger for Romania, for Romanian authorities, but also for the bystanders, especially the bystanders, because no one did anything. Now I cannot say the whole Romania because I did meet throughout my life good people, but I was so narrow-banded and so on the survival mode where I thought that everyone wants to hurt me and everyone wants one thing from me. But when I seeked for help, I mean, I didn't get it. And I was blamed. And I think more than 50% of Romanian society still blame the victim. They liked it. They wanted it. Why didn't she go away from that? Rather than seeing that, hey, this is an adaptive mechanism to survival. And sometimes that survival mode on the long term can be really harmful, but yet adaptive.
And not to praise Sweden too much, because I definitely also heard from Swedish women who still got a lot of blame. But when people in Sweden find out about your story, how would you describe the reaction from people, if there is a way to aggregate?
I think here in Sweden, I did receive compassion and understanding and praise. But sometimes I see that with many other women, which I don't really agree with, that they say that, oh, she's a victim and no one wants to be a victim at the end of the day. It's very important. I always say myself that it's very important that you see the human rather than the behavior, because the behavior actually helps the person to survive and cope. And once we see the person, then the person would know exactly what they need. But we need to be seen. If we are not seen and we are self-blamed, then we're actually going to take that responsibility on and we will self-blame and self-abuse ourselves because we will believe that it's our fault. We couldn't do nothing else. And that's why the society and the bystanders especially, they need to see the person rather than blaming the behavior. Because even with the addictive substances, people use alcohol or drugs to cope with the pain. And we need to see them. I do know that a lot of Swedish girls, and here in Sweden, a lot of girls, and sometimes I feel that myself, that there is this, like I said earlier, I am seen from the lens of the survivor or the victim, not from the lens of a human.
Women in Germany say this as well. This is like the stage where we're stuck. Okay, at least somebody recognizes a crime has been committed, but that's not the same as seeing a three-dimensional human being. That's still another step.
And that I am fighting with actually myself, because sometimes I feel that if I speak up or say something, then I am watched as, even though they don't say it, but the way they look is like, you are just a prostitute.
Like still an other.
Yes. Yeah. Not for what I am.
A separate category of human being. Yeah.
Yeah. And with that, I'm still fighting to this day. That's the problem, because no one says it, but you feel it.
My last question for now would be, what are your plans for the next few years? What are you hoping to accomplish personally, politically, in any relevant realm?
To collaborate with Space International from CAP International. We are going to France next month. I don't like the word survivors, women with experience. We are going to make some strategies to work towards bringing up more and more women with experience to talk about, and also make voices to speak up about, but also like the leader of space. I like what she's saying, that we are not only survivors or people with experience, but we are capable human beings, and we want to be seen for that. because we are so much more. We are not just an experience. We are so much more. Every human is so much more. And that frustrates me. It's like going always to the same rape. Like, let's talk about my rape. And I do hope that I will be able to work more in Romania with this and teenager schools, prevention, and not only about the prostitution and human trafficking, but also about sexual exploitation in general. And prevention is it's extremely crucial nowadays, and consent, because I feel like consent is just a new topic rising to the surface. And we definitely need to speak more about that.
And not get it twisted by the pro-prostitution lobby, which would go, I consent to prostitution, so, respect my consent. You know how they take the concept of consent and they say, if somebody says yes, that's consent. So much more complicated than that.
It's so much more complicated than that, because if there is a consent, there should not be needed a payment. As long as there is the payment in between the two, there is no consent. Are there other choices? Are there other alternatives? I do not say that, okay, prostitution lobbyists who say that it's a consent, that's fine for them because maybe it helps them with something. Or maybe there is something that is missing in their life that they don't have, and therefore consent is just apparent for that time. But in reality, it's not, until they have other choices and possibilities to choose from.
Is there anything that you would want to tell the audience before we close this conversation, something we forgot to mention?
One thing that I didn't say and that I focus more and more nowadays is that we have to abolish demand. Because I see it, and I think we all see it, as long as there is demand and as long as we allow men to just use women for their own sexual gratification, and as long as pornography exists, we are not going to get nowhere. Prostitution, human trafficking, it's a system in itself, and it's complex. But as long as there is pornography do affects our mental state, and we internalize it as something consensual, and then we're going to go out and act. Also, it shows that men who use pornography, so-called normal, consensual, romantic pornography without no violence, later on they will seek out child pornography, and they will seek out to go and abuse other women. And as long as these are not banned, and as long as we don't stop demand, which hangs on, it's tied hand in hand, I don't know. I'm very worried.
In Sweden, boys grow up being told the brothel is not okay, but strip clubs, maybe sometimes, and porn, do what you want. But that doesn't work. That doesn't make any sense, right?
No, it doesn't make any sense, because porn, we know now that it's filmed prostitution. So that needs to be banned.
And if our listeners want to find more about your work, do they go to Talita's website? Do you have your own website? Even if it's in Swedish, people's browsers can translate. Where should they go to follow you?
Well, I don't really have a website on my own. I work for Talita, and the best to contact me is through Talita. Izabella at talita.se. Email.
Yes.
Or info Talita.
And I should say, for everyone listening, Izabella is spelled with a Z, so Izabella.
Thank you, Elly.
Wonderful. Thank you so, so much for all your insight and your honesty and your fight for women. One day we won't have to do this work anymore. We can just do art and music and gardening or whatever the hell. That's the dream one day.
Yeah. A place where there is no violence and more unity.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who listened.
And thank you so much, Elly. It was really nice talking to you. I mean, you're a fantastic human being. So nice to meet you.
We hope you found this episode informative. To follow us on social media, click the links in the show notes below. If there is a topic you would like us to cover, you can contact us at redlightexposé.podcast@gmail.com or head on over to our website, redlightexposé.com. There you can also find a donation page if you'd like to support the show. All the hosts at Red Light Exposé are volunteers, so we rely on your donations to continue to compensate our survivor guests and cover operative costs. Thank you for listening. We hope you tune in next time.